spin.
Alright, sorry.
Welcome everybody to the second episode of the IT show. I guess that's the name now, the IT show.
The IT show? Okay.
I haven't really decided on it.
No pun intended.
Recently, it was Chinese New Year, and since we do have our in-house Chinese specialist here, let's give a round of applause for Mr. Christopher Wang, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Those are fake applauses. There's no audience here.
新年快乐. That's the Mandarin way to say Happy New Year. And of course, Gong Hei Pak Choi is the Cantonese version with my super whitewash accent, American ABC accent.
ABC, American-born Chinese. But here at IT, we do find it very important to acknowledge different diversities in their cultures, their weddings, and their events. At least I know with our company, we try to have a diverse team of people that can at least have knowledge of these different cultures and their different traditions and stuff. So I thought about Chris here, since we just had Chinese New Year. I thought Chris could give us some more insight on Chinese traditions and also the diverse community of Chinese people too, because it's not just Mandarin and Cantonese. You know, people forget that China has so many different regions and different accents, and different cultures,
languages, traditions,
foods. You know, we won't dwell into everything, but we'll try to talk about some wedding stuff. Now, how many Chinese weddings have you done?
Oh gosh, man! Like I did 45 weddings, around 45 weddings last year alone, and I would say over half of them were Chinese weddings. So what we're talking about today is basically a mixture between the Western influence on Chinese culture and weddings and the traditional style of a Chinese wedding.
Bridging the gap.
Exactly. Like Qatar said earlier, every Chinese area has their own subdivisions, like their own sub languages. You know, you go to Shanghai, they have Shanghainese. You go to southern China, they have Cantonese. You go to Sichuan, they have Sichuanhua. It's like a Sichuan language, and they all, of course, have their own little tiny small traditions as well. But what we're going to talk about today is the overall just theme of like certain very important aspects of a Chinese wedding that are encompassed in influenced by Western weddings as well. Like Qatar said earlier, every Chinese area has their own subdivisions, like their own sub languages. You know, you go to Shanghai, they have Shanghainese. You go to southern China, they have Cantonese. You go to Sichuan, they have Sichuanhua. It's like a Sichuan language, and they all, of course, have their own little tiny small traditions as well. But what we're going to talk about today is the overall just theme of like certain very important aspects of a Chinese wedding that are encompassed in influenced by Western weddings as well. So I guess I'll start with just talking about the overall ceremony. That's important in Chinese culture, but not so much for you, the guest. And typically speaking, if you go to a Western wedding, you're going to go to a ceremony and then a reception. Now, if you're going to a Chinese wedding here in America and they happen to be Westernized, you might do the same thing, ceremony and reception. But if you go into a traditional Chinese wedding, you ain't going to a ceremony, you're just going to a big giant feast with lots of food.
A lot of alcohol.
So, yeah, a lot of alcohol, a lot of drinking involved.
A lot of drinking.
Typically, I believe it's like 10 courses that they're going to serve throughout your meal. And I know that in some Chinese restaurants, they like to do like a food presentation. So after, like, when the food is being presented, they bring it out on trays and do all this thing.
Food is definitely a highlight. It's also, it's your entertainment. You know, a lot of times with kind of Western weddings, we kind of have everything, the salads, entrees, and dessert, or the cake, whatever that may be, you know, and then There's enough time to do like father-daughter. You do things between that, you know. But with Chinese weddings, even Vietnamese too, they do the 10 course as well. But you're always going to have food constantly being served, you know, and like that's part of the entertainment. So guests are always entertained by food, and like especially in Asian weddings. You don't want to fight against the food. you want people to eat,
enjoy the
food. A lot of great stuff. And a lot of times when I see the mixed weddings where you Western and American, they'll serve Western food to the American guest, you know. But then they see all the plates of the Chinese food, they're like, hey, I want some of that too. So I say go full Chinese. You know, like if you want to feed the people like good food, go full. You know, don't give them chicken piccata when they're seeing, you know, lobster
shrimp
and oyster
walnut.
sauce or shrimp. Honey walnut shrimp. We're trying not to turn this about food, but that's another thing.
So one he was talking about dancing earlier. That actually leads me to my next segment. Is like traditionally in Chinese weddings there is no dancing. Like you don't dance. It's not like really what the wedding's about. But if you go to a Chinese wedding and there is like a Western influence, you still are going to see that first dance, and typically it'll be in a white wedding dress. That's actually another segment too I want to talk about with traditional Chinese weddings. Now, every Asian culture has like a dress change typically. They don't have to do it, but it's very common. I've seen up to 3 for Chinese weddings, but typically it's 2. So they've been influenced by Western culture. They'll wear the white gown, and then typically what ends up happening is they'll end up changing into what we call a Chinese jipao. And that's like that traditional, like very high cut thigh Mandarin dress. Yeah, it's typically red.
Beautiful. Silk too, right?
Yes, that's correct. And red, that's another thing. Red is such an important color in Chinese culture because it basically symbolizes prosperity, fertility, loyalty, passion. It's just such an important color in Chinese tradition. So you'll see them change from the white dress to the Chinese jipao. And speaking on red again, typically you don't do wedding gifts at Chinese weddings. You know, like you have your registry in Western cultures.
The red envelopes,
right? You do the red envelopes. Hongbao. That's also for Chinese New Year.
I love when I was a kid and I had my Chinese friend bring those envelopes on Chinese New Year, and like it was like $1 or maybe like a candy or something. But no, those envelopes are awesome. I've been tipped in many of those beautiful envelopes. So.
I have too. So one of the most important things at a Chinese wedding is for the bride and groom to go around to each table and toast with the people of the table. And typically, go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna teach you a trick to if you are gonna go to a wedding and drink at every table, so you don't get plastered by the 5th table. I'll teach you a little trick, but go explain. I'm gonna go get the thing for that.
All right. So when you go to a Chinese wedding, they come around to your table. Typically, what you're gonna do is you're gonna toast to them. If they're someone you're trying to show respect to, typically like elders, the bride and groom might put their hand under the cup, like for example to their parents. Or if you want to show respect to the bride and groom, then you would put one hand underneath the cup. So a toast with 2 hands. Also, here's another thing I learned while living in China is that the person who basically brings their cup lower than the other cup is basically showing respect. So if the bride and groom come and you wanted to show respect to them, not only could you put your hand on your cup, but you could also like try to toast your glass lower than their glass, which means like, hey, like respect. So that's another tradition. And typically the term ganbei, which is cheers.
Is that Japanese?
No, you're thinking kanpai.
Oh, okay.
So ganbei is Chinese, means empty glass, and basically, I mean, if they empty their glass, then I mean you're supposed to empty your glass. Unfortunately, I see a lot of Chinese people get sloshed this way, like a lot of grooms.
Pace yourself. A little tip: if you are going to go to each table and drink, this isn't for Chinese too. This is for in general. If people expect you to drink with everybody, so here's what you do: take a bottle of beer, usually a darker one, like a Budweiser or something. It's not too visible, you know. You take the shot. I really took that one because what the hell? You spit it back out to the, after as a chaser.
So you're chasing the beer, but you're really putting it in the bottle.
So you hide it in here. Show your waste of alcohol.
And just make sure no one drinks that after the fact, because that would just be nasty.
Unless they're into that. That's your thing. I'm gonna put this. Oh, that felt good actually.
Are we allowed to drink on camera?
I just did.